All right. Are you ready to unlock some serious life upgrade potential?
I think so.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Because you sent us this really fascinating video
Oh, yeah.
about 10 small habits that can lead to big changes,
Yeah.
and we're diving in.
Let's do it.
It's by Jim Rohn.
Oh, cool.
And it's all about these small, consistent actions and how they compound over time.
That's so interesting how he really emphasizes that point about the compounding over time.
Yeah, he makes it seem like, you're not just watching a video, you're getting a cheat sheet to a better life.
Exactly.
So keep in mind what you're hoping to change or achieve, because as we go through these habits, we want to help you make this information work for you.
Absolutely.
So the first habit that Ron talks about is reading.
Oh, interesting.
But he doesn't just mean casually flipping through any magazine.
Right. He's very specific about reading with a purpose, right?
Right.
Choosing material that is going to expand your knowledge.
Yeah, it's got to challenge your thinking. It's got to be in line with your goals.
Yeah, like actively engaging with the text.
Yes. And he has this great line. He says something like, every time you pick up a book, you're holding a piece of someone's life's work.
Wow.
So it really makes you think about the knowledge and experience that's contained in those pages.
Yeah, it makes you really think about being selective with what you're reading.
Yes.
It's like choosing nutritious food for your mind,
What are some books that have really impacted your thinking?
Oh, wow. Well, for me, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman was a big one. It just really opened my eyes to how our minds work.
Yeah.
And all the biases that we have.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one. So the next habit that Ron talks about is journaling.
Oh, yeah.
And, he makes this comparison of a cluttered mind being like a messy room.
Right.
And journaling kind of helps to clean up those thoughts and make them more tangible.
Yeah, so true. Because when you write things down, it helps you process your emotions.
Yeah.
And you can clarify your thinking. You can even, notice patterns that you might not have seen otherwise.
I love that. He even mentions this idea of brain fog, which I'm sure we've all experienced at some point, right? That feeling of being overwhelmed and mentally drained.
Oh, totally.
But what's actually going on in our brains when we experience that brain fog?
Well, brain fog isn't actually a medical term.
Okay.
But it is used to describe, all those symptoms. Difficulty concentrating, forgetfulness, mental fatigue.
Yeah.
And there can be so many different contributing factors to that.
Right. So it's not just, a matter of being lazy or lacking willpower.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
There could be something else going on.
And journaling can actually be a helpful tool, right?
Absolutely.
To identify what those underlying causes might be.
Exactly, yeah.
So the third habit that Ron talks about is goal setting. And he uses this great analogy of, if you don't have goals, you're like a ship without a sail.
Oh, I like that.
Just drifting aimlessly without any direction.
Totally. Yeah, it highlights the importance of having a purpose.
Yes.
A direction.
And even setting daily goals, even small ones, can really help to build that momentum.
Yeah, keep you focused.
Yes, he really is a fan of starting small, isn't he?
He is.
And building that consistency. And he doesn't just focus on the mental habits either.
Right. Yeah.
He also emphasizes physical well-being.
Okay.
Specifically exercise.
Interesting.
He says, when you move your body, you're telling yourself, I'm alive, I'm capable, I'm strong.
Yeah, and that's not just like motivational talk. There's actual research that shows that exercise can have a big impact on our brains.
Yeah, so it's not just about looking good, it's about literally making our brains stronger.
Yeah, more resilient.
And that ties into this whole idea of resilience, right?
Exactly.
Pushing through that discomfort in exercise can actually translate to other areas of life.
Yeah, building that mental toughness.
Yeah. So it really makes you think about exercise differently.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, this next habit is one that I really like.
Okay.
Gratitude.
Yes.
Ron says that what you focus on expands. So if you focus on the good, you attract more good.
I love that.
And he suggests that you write down the things that you're grateful for every day.
It's such a simple thing, but it can make a big difference.
Right. And it's so easy to do. How often do you consciously practice gratitude?
I'm trying to get better at it, I have to admit. Sometimes I forget, with life getting in the way, but I have noticed a difference when I do it.
All right, so habit number 6 is rest.
Oh, interesting.
And Ron really challenges this hustle culture mentality.
Oh, good.
Because he says it's not about how hard you work, but how smart you work.
Yeah.
And that includes taking time to rest.
Yes.
And recharge.
I think a lot of people forget that.
He even shares that some of his best ideas came when he wasn't actually trying to think.
Wow.
Like in the shower or on walks.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when I'm like stuck on a problem, I just need to step away.
Right.
And then boom, a solution will come to me.
So he compares it to athletes needing recovery time after intense training.
That makes sense.
You know, you can't constantly push yourself to the limit.
No.
Without giving your body and mind a chance to rebuild.
I think we all need to hear that.
So the next habit Ron talks about is giving.
Okay.
And he emphasizes this principle of the more you give, the more you receive.
Interesting.
And he's not just talking about material things, he's also talking about giving time, energy, kindness.
I like that, yeah.
What do you think about that? Have you ever experienced that, where you've given something, maybe even something small,
yeah,
and it made you feel unexpectedly fulfilled?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, we're social creatures, right? So when we help others, it just strengthens those social bonds.
Yeah, and it creates a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Okay, habit number 8, listening.
Oh, important one.
And I think this is something that, you know, we could all probably work on, myself included.
Oh, sure.
He says that true listening is about more than just hearing the words. It's about, you know, understanding and presence.
It's like going beyond just the surface level.
Yeah, it's about putting aside our own agenda.
Yeah, and really trying to see things from the other person's point of view.
Imagine how much richer our relationships would be if we all just became better listeners.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's about building those deeper connections.
Okay, so the next habit that Ron talks about is patience. He contrasts, you know, our modern desire for instant gratification with the reality that worthwhile things often take time.
Totally, yeah.
And he uses this analogy of achieving goals being like a seed growing.
Oh.
So you're doing all this unseen work below the surface before the plant emerges.
I like that.
So, you know, it's easy to get discouraged when we don't see those results right away.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that growth often happens in stages.
Yeah, it's about trusting the process.
And finally, we come to the power of choosing our circle.
Oh, yes.
Ron famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with."
Such a powerful quote.
Yeah.
It really is. It makes you think about who you're surrounding yourself with.
So how do we make sure we're surrounding ourselves with people who support our growth?
Well, I think it starts with being really clear about our own values, our goals, you know, what kind of people do we want to be around?
Yeah, and what qualities do we admire?
Exactly, yeah. And then I think we need to be proactive about seeking those people out.
Right. Nurturing those relationships.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it also means letting go of relationships that are no longer serving us. Yeah.
Even if it's hard.
So it's not just about who we let into our circle.
Right.
It's also about who we choose to walk away from.
It's about being really intentional.
Yes.
About the company we keep.
So there you have it, Jim Rohn's 10 small habits for big change.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
I know, we just went through them all.
We did.
But we've got a lot more to unpack, so stick around for part 2.
Awesome.
Where we're going to delve even deeper
Okay.
into these habits and how to put them into practice in our own lives.
Can't wait.
Me neither.
Welcome back.
It's amazing, you know, how these seemingly small habits can have such a big impact on our life.
I know, right? It's like he's giving us this blueprint for building a life of purpose.
And fulfillment, yeah. So in this part, we're going to dig a little deeper into some of those habits.
Yeah, let's explore how we can actually put them into practice.
You know, one that really stood out to me was Ron's emphasis on giving.
Oh, yeah. The more you give, the more you receive. And it really got me thinking about, like, the whole nature of abundance and generosity.
It's so true, you know. It challenges that scarcity mindset that I think a lot of us get caught up in.
Right, like there's only so much to go around.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to protect what we have.
But when you approach life with a spirit of generosity, I think it just opens up so many possibilities.
Right, and you experience the joy of giving. You know?
Absolutely. And you make a difference in other people's lives.
Yeah, so it's like this universal law of reciprocity.
Totally.
What you put out comes back to you.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that in my own life.
Yeah. In what way?
You know, whenever I've been generous with my time or my resources, it always seems to come back tenfold.
I love that. That's awesome. It makes me think of that quote. No one has ever become poor by giving.
It's so true. And it doesn't have to be like these grand gestures.
Right.
You know, it can be something small.
Yeah, like just offering a helping hand.
Yeah, just a kind word even.
Just those like small everyday acts of kindness.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, Ron's habit of listening, it's almost like an act of generosity in itself, isn't it?
It really is. It's like giving someone the gift of your attention.
And making them feel heard.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get caught up in our own heads.
Oh, I know, especially in today's world.
With all the distractions.
I mean, distractions, yeah.
But when we really listen, it just creates that space for connection.
I feel like so many conflicts and misunderstandings could be avoided if we all just listen better.
Totally, yeah. And listening is not just about the words, it's about the nonverbal cues.
Right.
The body language.
Yeah, the tone of voice. And sometimes the best listening is just being present.
Yeah, just letting someone know that you're there.
Without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just holding space for them.
That's a good way to put it. So Ron's habit of patience ties into this idea too.
It does, yeah, allowing things to unfold.
It's about resisting that urge to rush the process.
Embracing the journey.
Yeah, even when it's tough.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes.
He uses that analogy of a seed growing underground.
Oh, yeah.
All that unseen work before it sprouts.
Yeah. I think about all the times I've given up on something because I didn't see results fast enough.
Oh, I know, me too.
But maybe if I'd been more patient.
Yeah.
You know.
It's so easy to get discouraged when we don't, see those results right away.
It is.
But we have to remember that growth often happens in stages.
Mm-hmm. It's those small, consistent efforts over time.
Showing up day after day.
Yeah.
Even when we don't feel like it.
Exactly. It's about believing that our efforts will pay off.
Yeah, it's about that belief.
And, that belief is often what separates the people who achieve their goals from the ones who don't.
Ron's habit of choosing our circle.
Oh, so important.
You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Powerful.
And it really makes you think about the people you surround yourself with.
It does. It highlights how much our social environment impacts our thoughts and behaviors.
Right. It makes me think about all the times I've been influenced by people around me.
Yeah.
Both good and bad.
We're social creatures. We pick up cues from our environment.
So how do we make sure we're surrounding ourselves with the right people?
Well, I think first you have to be intentional.
Okay.
About the company you keep.
Yeah.
Who are the people who make you feel good about yourself?
And then who are the people who drain your energy?
Right.
Who bring you down?
We have to be honest about how different people make us feel.
And it's okay to set boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not about being judgmental,
right? But
it's about recognizing that we have a choice.
It's about, honoring ourselves, creating space for those positive connections.
So we've talked about a lot of different habits.
We have.
Reading, journaling, exercise.
Gratitude, rest, giving.
Listening, patience, and choosing our circle.
These are all simple habits, but they can have a huge impact if we put them into practice.
But change is hard, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It takes effort and commitment.
That's where we come in. Stick around for part 3, where we're going to give you some practical tips for making these habits stick.
Yeah, some strategies for overcoming those obstacles.
And staying motivated. So stay tuned for part 3. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Jim Rohn's 10 small habits for big change.
It's time to get practical.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how to actually make these habits stick.
One thing I've always been curious about is the science behind habit formation.
Yeah.
What's actually happening in our brains?
Well, essentially, habits are formed through repetition.
Okay.
And reinforcement. So when we repeat an action over and over again, our brains create these neural pathways.
Interesting.
That make it easier to perform that action in the future.
So it's like our brains are constantly rewiring themselves.
Exactly.
Based on our actions and experiences.
And the more we repeat a behavior, the stronger those pathways become.
Okay.
So it becomes more automatic.
That makes sense.
Less effortful.
So how do we make sure that we're reinforcing the right behaviors?
That's a great question.
What role does motivation play?
I think motivation is key.
Okay.
Especially at the beginning when you're first trying to form a habit.
Yeah.
We need to have a strong reason why we want to do this. What are the benefits?
Right, like what's the why?
Exactly. It's like setting a destination before we start a journey.
Yeah.
We need to know where we're going.
Okay.
And I think it's also helpful to break down the habit into smaller steps.
Okay.
So instead of trying to change your whole life at once, just focus on one small thing.
Ron talked about starting small.
Yeah.
And building up.
Exactly. Those small improvements add up over time.
Yeah. And we also need to celebrate those small wins.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Acknowledge your effort. Give yourself some credit.
Yeah, it's like training a puppy.
Exactly. You need to give yourself that positive reinforcement.
So consistency is key.
Absolutely. The more consistently you do it, the faster it'll become part of your routine.
Ron talked about discipline.
Yes, discipline is so important.
It's about showing up even when we don't feel like it.
Yeah, that's the bridge between goals and accomplishment.
What about when we slip up, though?
Yeah.
We're all human.
We are.
We're going to make mistakes.
That's okay.
How do we handle those setbacks without getting discouraged?
I think the most important thing is to remember that setbacks are normal.
Okay.
They're not a sign of failure. They're an opportunity to learn.
So it's not about being perfect.
No. It's about progress.
It's about getting back on track.
Exactly.
As quickly as possible.
And being kind to ourselves.
Yeah. We need to be our own cheerleader.
Yes, not our own worst critic.
It's a journey, right?
It is.
Personal growth.
Lifelong journey.
And having a support system can really help.
Oh, for sure.
Surround yourself with people who encourage you.
Yeah, who believe in you.
And hold you accountable.
That brings us back to choosing our circle.
Yeah, the people we spend time with have a huge impact on our lives.
It's like we're all connected.
Yeah.
And our energy affects everyone around us.
So it's not just about finding people who inspire us.
Right.
It's also about being a source of inspiration.
Exactly, paying it forward.
Creating a positive ripple effect.
That's what it's all about.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Choose one of these habits that we talked about.
Yeah.
And commit to practicing it for the next 30 days.
Start small, be consistent.
Celebrate your progress.
You got this.
You're not alone on this journey.
We're all in this together.
Supporting each other.
Striving for positive change.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.